Joining us in the studio to break this down further is media and PR expert Norman Mudibo. Welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you, Uche.
Now, of course, H&M has now appointed a diversity leader to certainly address this diversity issue it has and certainly the issues the brand is facing following that controversial advert. What are your thoughts on how it responded to the backlash that came with that ad?
You know, the first thing is, of course, there was a gap. You know, there was a gap in terms of the messaging, in terms of the sensitivities, especially when it comes to messaging about a certain product or about a certain agenda that you're trying to push. For H&M to have appointed a diversity, it realized that there was a mistake. There were certain things that were not done right before the message went out. But again, it is unfortunate that this came after the fact. The damage had been caused already. But again, it is not all lost. The thing is, sometimes in life, once you make a mistake, you realize, yes, this is a mistake. How fast you move to correct that and put mechanisms, put measures to ensure that this does not happen in future is really what counts. And I think for H&M, they realized this, but still the thing hasn't gone away yet. There's still a lot that has to be done. They still have to appease. You know, there's a certain constituency that really feels that H&M really does not really care. H&M does not really take into account the sensitivities, the cultural norms, you know, of the many 40 international markets that they operate in. Because, I mean, in terms of the background, H&M is the second largest, you know, retailer in the world. You'd expect that they should have put these mechanisms in you know, in place. But again, sometimes things happen that you're not foreseen, and therefore you realize, fine, we need to address this gap. And I think for H&M, this is where they realized, fine, yes, we are one of the biggest retailers in the world, but there's certain small issues that we don't have a grip on, and therefore we need an expert, we need a professional to be able. But again, also how they handle it is in terms of our question, do they have a crisis management plan in place? Because that's where you start from, and all that. And considering that this really, because it was essentially, the advertising message was essentially a racial slur, or so it was perceived, you know. But do they have people who check messages before they go out? Do they check messages? Because this is a multinational.
Right. It's quite unusual for such a big company. And of course, as we heard there, they have actually reopened their stores in South Africa now. Do you think that the brand can rebuild those bridges, especially on the African continent?
Absolutely. It is not all lost. It is not all lost. Because, you know, yes, they realized they've made a mistake. They've made a mistake, or there are certain things which they are not addressed before. So the fact that they have reopened, it means that there is still goodwill. Yeah, there's still goodwill. It's not a blank check. There's still goodwill. But again, what that again denotes is, you know, you're just being told, okay, fine, you made a mistake, but let's see how you deal. Let's see how you deal with this. But you see, the simmering discontent hasn't and cannot be washed away.
It probably will tarnish the brand going forward.
Absolutely, and it will take, you know, you can build a brand for 100 years, but it will take 5 seconds to just destroy it.
Now, H&M isn't the only brand that has made this mistake. In recent times, we saw Dove made that mistake, Pepsi made that mistake as well. How do you say the game has changed for multinationals today, especially with social media? Suddenly, it seems like they have to change their PR strategy going forward.
Absolutely, absolutely. Because if your PR strategy was based on the traditional media landscape, then certainly there has to be some change. You know, because social media is really a phenomenon. It is a necessary evil. You cannot wish it away. It is here. And in terms of the development of social media, we've seen a lot happening. For example, what H&M and also these companies, if this was to happen, or if it had happened more than 10 years ago, when people had not really appreciated, people had not really known how social media can be really a very powerful platform, then we would not have seen the kind of rebellion, the kind of discontent that we saw. But there's this pervasive nature, there's this ubiquitous nature of social media, which then tends to, for lack of a better word, aggravate the situation. Because a message you post today in Nairobi, in a few seconds, it is seen all over the world.
That's right.
So for multinationals, and considering that you're not just in one market, one, the key lesson that you get out of this is that you have to really appreciate the cultural norms, the sensitivities of each and every of these markets. Because what is good for you is not necessarily...
Exactly. And I mean, as a PR expert, very quickly, how would you advise these brands that are coming to Africa? Do you think that they need to tailor their strategy? Absolutely, because it's not a one-size-fits-all. You know, you have multinationals, or you have certain countries who I will not want to mention because of the relationship that we have. You have certain people who think it is a one-size-fits-all. No, it is not. I would advise, if I'm in that position to advise such, I would advise, first of all, do your research, understand the cultural complexities, the norms, the, you know, what is in practice, what is palatable, what is unpalatable, and therefore tailor-made your communications, PR, media strategies to be able to address all these sensitivities. And certainly, if H&M had done that, then therefore would not have an issue where you're using a small black boy, you know, and say, that
you
was
know,
actually, that was
you know,
quite,
a monkey in the jungle.
That
would not
that
really
was quite tone deaf, actually.
Absolutely.
Well, certainly, many thanks for joining us in the studio. Many thanks for your insights, Norman. That was Norman Mudibo. He's a PR and media expert here in Africa.